This is Ambazonia Calling. News, analysis, commentary, opinion, editorials. Ambazonia Calling is a co-production of Africa Freedom Network, the Missions Tribune, and Compass Free Press. Welcome. My name is Ntumfoyn Herbert, and I bring revolutionary greetings from our studios in Washington, D.C. to all of you, friends of Ambazonia and fellow Ambazonians on Ground Zero and across the globe.
Supporting and sponsoring tribes, clans, and native villages can only matter if Ambazonians are on the road to the village, not the march to BOYO. This is Innocentia.
We can doubt any and every aspect of this struggle, but never the firmness of purpose and bravery of the true Amba boys. This is Manjung Jude Ambe.
County by county has managed the feat of dividing us even more by reducing us to a bunch of tribalists, promoting a nativist policy of parochial jingoism at the expense of Ambazonian nationalism. This is Willibrod Ade.
Fear has a paralyzing effect that instead of enkindling hope can engender desperation and exasperation. It is time to stand up to the bullies. Lambert Mbom.
Inadvertently, perhaps, the Secretary had just endorsed a separate identity for Southern Cameroons.
This is the monk from Ibalikumato.
The Amba come together in Philadelphia kindly replace that with rise to power by a coup, get ousted by a coup. This is Tanya Jude Agwa Ozuge.
Elections in Ambazonia, an ever-evolving or elusive dream? This is Divine Angie.
The United Nations refused to recognize China for a long time, just as they delay recognizing Ambazonia. They can delay, but they can never ever prevent Ambazonia from being recognized eventually. This is Capo Daniel.
Colonial Cameroon is fighting like there's no tomorrow to defend what they consider a gift from the Queen of England to the President of France and to the French colonial territories in Africa. But Ambazonia is not letting off, and everyone is taking up the defense of the homeland and self-defense, a right under all international law. As Lambert Baum explains, we have gone from a period when our people mobilized freely and peacefully in their great numbers to a moment when our people have been intimidated in their great numbers by fear. Here's the editorial for the week.
On September 22, 2017, the world watched the courage of Ambazonians who, with peace plans, unperturbed by the pointing barrels of the gun and chanting Ambazonia is rising to fall no more, demonstrate their resolve to opt out of the ill-fated union with La République. We have witnessed with great admiration the courage of a ragtag band of untrained young people who have put their lives on the line to defend the homeland and have held the fort against the formidable, well-trained military of La République du Cameroun, backed by France, Israel, and even the United States. Yet, in the face of this courage, there is so much fear. The mayhem on Ground Zero is regrettable but expected. The colonizer is stubbornly refusing to read the tea leaves that Ambazonia will be for La République what Vietnam was to the Americans, a Waterloo. Some Ambazonians have also declared this the era of the strongman. In standing up to the bully Paul Biya and his many international surrogates, we have wittingly and unwittingly created more bullies. The recent shutdown is a glaring example of the ratcheting of the bullying by the strongmen. The fear on Ground Zero is palpable and real. It is the fear of the recklessness and impunity of the marauding brutes and thugs of La République and their now infamous stray bullets slaughtering innocent Ambazonians. It is a fear of fake Amba boys kidnapping and asking for ransom, making it difficult to distinguish who the real liberators are. It is the fear of the lack of respect of basic wartime principles, such as the extremity of the burning of the surgical and male wards of the Kumba General Hospital, and cold-blooded murder of doctors and nurses by La République's military that scares the hell out of all. And thus the recent carnage on the Kumba Hospital, which is a stock in trade of the Cameroonian military, is scary. This barbarism makes even the strongest to shudder. But there are fears, and there are fears. It is the fear of the strong men who are holding every other person ransom and claiming to be speaking for all and advocating the reign of terror, and nobody is aware of what is next. Many Ambazonians on ground zero feel helpless in the face of both the oppressor and those who claim to be the liberators. It is the fear that while La République du Cameroon is burning hospitals and killing doctors and nurses, some Ambazonians are killing the patients. The events of the recent past, such as in Kumbu, that saw an old man die because he was unable to go get his dialysis, is just one of many gruesome stories accruing from the infamous lockdown. It is such fear of reprisal and retribution that has paralyzed many Ambazonians on ground zero, opposed to such ridiculous strategies, preventing them from making their voices heard. Fear has a paralyzing effect that instead of enkindling hope, can engender desperation and exasperation. It is this debilitating effect of fear that is threatening to engulf Ambazonians. Fear-mongering has become an effective tool for gullible Ambazonians. It is this fear-mongering that must be instilled in the enemy, not on fellow Ambazonians. It is time to stand up to the bullies. We must challenge our personal demons and collective fears to continue working for the restoration of Ambazonia. We must not be scared by and of the truth, but have to deal with it squarely so as to save this revolution. Lambert, Mbom for Ambazonia Calling.
Still ahead in this edition, we have The Devil Unmasked with Professor Emmanuel Tatamenta. We have a winner of the Nyamfuka of the Week. And we are not done until you have heard our letter to Joshua. So stay tuned, kick back, relax, and enjoy Ambazonia Calling. It was a week jam-packed with news, and Innocent Chair has got the first part of a news summary.
Happening in a corner, these are civilians. These are 3 young men in their late 20s that have been shot by the forces of the Republic of Cameroon. Armless civilians and shot point blank by the terrorist force of the Republic of Cameroon. This is the degree of behalf sign that all the youth of Southern Cameroon should be shot dead.
Hundreds of shocking mobile phone videos from Cameroon have surfaced in the past few days. They are coming from the English-speaking part of the country, where rebels are fighting to form an independent state called Ambazonia.
Between 190 and 300 students, mostly girls at St. Augustine College in Saw, were briefly kidnapped breaking Saturday. It remains unclear who is responsible for the Chibok girl-style kidnapping, but the government of La République du Cameroon was found most likely to have attempted a similar kidnapping at the Queen Baptist College late 2018.
These are the hallmarks of the attacks suffered by the convoy of the governor of the Southwest region.
The colonial governor of the Southwest region of Cameroon in Ambazonia's southern zone purportedly escaped death Wednesday on his way to and from visiting the burned-down remains of the Kumba District Hospital.
Security sources say many Amba fighters were killed. The governor was en route to pay a courtesy visit to the Kumba District Hospital.
Ambazonian restoration forces reportedly ambushed the convoy, wounding several soldiers and causing irreparable damage to some of the cars in the convoy.
The US also say that the Cameroonian government must investigate credible abuse allegations and hold the perpetrators accountable. Well, joining me now is Innocence Chia.
The government of Cameroon has blamed Ambazonian pro-independence groups for the arson, but Ambazonians, including the son of Meme, have easily pointed to the government's history of burning down hundreds of villages, killing medical officers, and even boasting in a Washington Post documentary that they only burned down areas suspected of harboring pro-independence fighters.
The military, the worker, they do damage. Una fi imagine, una fi remember last time they be there for Mbonge, where they born a person for inside hospital. Last week they born a hospital for Konye. Today they don't decide for born. Last night they don't decide for born Kuma main hospital. All this one are because they want make una be angry against the restoration forces. Make una not be angry with the restoration forces. Now La République, they do this work because iwa mona turn against una picking them.
Actuellement, nous avons un certain nombre de coopérants militaires.
An inquiry midweek by French parliamentarians has confirmed the fears of Ambazonians that French troops have been fighting side by side their colonial counterparts in Cameroon against Ambazonian self-defense forces.
Qui sont présents au Cameroun. Monsieur le ministre, pouvez-vous m'indiquer le nombre de ces militaires qui sont actuellement au Cameroun, leur utilisation?
The legislators expressed concern at the possibility that this could be another Rwanda for France.
Si on se souvient bien de ce qui s'était passé au Rwanda, méfions-nous parce que on est vite engagé dans une difficulté majeure dans ce genre de pays.
The fate of 8 million Ambazonians lies in the promise that the colonial Prime Minister of Cameroon, Dion Gute, has made to UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres to look into a humanitarian crisis that has claimed thousands of lives, displaced hundreds of thousands internally, and forced close to 100,000 across the border to Nigeria.
Nous accompagnons avec beaucoup d'intérêt et préoccupation la situation que vous avez référée. J'ai eu aujourd'hui un dialogue, hier d'ailleurs, un dialogue avec le Premier ministre où on a discuté ces questions et il nous a promis que tout sera fait pour créer des conditions de respect des droits de l'homme et de dialogue pour que la situation puisse se normaliser. C'était le résultat de notre démarche avec le Premier ministre qui était avec nous hier soir.
Answering to questions at the close of the 32nd General Assembly of the African Union in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, the Secretary General said he believes Dion Gute at his word to usher in effective dialogue and normalize conditions that have otherwise gone south, while Guterres looks the other way. Dr. Herbert of the AGOF is descending so that Dr. Julius Nye, Vice President of the Council, can ascend. Internal changes within the AGC come on the heels of important diplomatic gains and breakthroughs reportedly made by the AGC thanks to the membership of Ambazonia at the Unrepresented Nations and Peoples Organization, UNPO. Speaking to a live Facebook audience Friday, Dr. Nye submitted that the current phase of internalization will involve reaching out to key actors within respective pro-independence groups, as well as international actors who are showing commitment and support for Ambazonia. You are listening to Ambazonia Calling, your space for educated news analysis, informed opinions, and commentary towards the recognition of a free, independent Ambazonia. I am Innocent. Stay with us.
Innocent Chair is not going anywhere. He's got the second part of our news wrap-up for the week.
4 frontline organizations for the independence of Ambazonia are taking exception to a mischaracterization by the ADF and AGC that the movements have agreed, quote, to support and market the Cardinal Tumi Anglophone General Conference, end quote. In an internal memo, Maurice spokesman Ntumfoyn Herbert clarified that leaders of the consortium SCNC, APLM, and Morris met Thursday night in Washington, D.C. to reaffirm that the above-mentioned liberation movements and any others that choose to sign up are the sole organizers of the Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia Conference scheduled to hold in Washington, D.C. on 22nd and 23rd of March 2019. Meantime, Dr. Ebenezer Akwanga, leader of the APLM, has expressed unalloyed admiration and respect for Dr. Ayaba's commitment to the liberation of Ambazonia. In a crisp online video, Dr. Akwanga, friends with Dr. Ayaba since their university days, reveals how Dr. Ayaba put the funeral arrangements of his wife on hold in order to attend to Ambazonian matters.
Well, brother Lucas Ayaba don't do everything. When I imagine, say, a woman, a first wife, die there for mortuary. I want to tell you how much sacrifice people they give her. A woman there for mortuary, for Bamenda. That very time so, if they will get for control action, for struggle. They call it, talk, say, una wait. Say, Ambazonia come first. I must do this work before I go bury my wife. You feel see what they call and say, ultimate sacrifice for struggle. You lost a part of you. But you say your people come first before anything.
Disturbing video of hundreds of students arrested, taken away into detention, and placed in the same position slaves were placed in ships during slavery and transported across the Atlantic has gone viral since Tuesday.
Tout le monde va dormir. Oh, regardez le téléphone. Regardez le téléphone là. Enlevez-moi ton machin là. Regardez le téléphone là. Voilà. Regardez le téléphone là. Regardez le téléphone là. J'ai fini d'abord ici là. J'arrive.
In the video, a soldier of La République du Cameroon goes down the ranks of the detained youth, calling out on them to look at his phone so they can be filmed, and then asking them to sleep by leaning back into each other.
Close your eyes! Close your eyes! Look your eyes! I'll mash you! I said, I'll mash you! Look your eye! Look your eye! Look at this buster! I said, close your eyes! Close your eyes! I said, idiot! Close your eyes! I said, close your eyes! Close your eyes! Close your eyes! Basil!
Reports from BOYO and KUPE are all painting the picture of how local CPDM administrators went the extra mile recruiting for the February 11th activities. Sources say the Kumba CPDM engineered rally was escorted by troops. Dr. Samuel Sako, acting president of the self-styled interim government group, has hammered another wedge between his supporters and loyalists of his predecessor, not only comparing Sisiko Ayuk Tabe to a captured general who loses command of his soldiers, but also questioning the mental state of Sisiko Ayuk Tabe to lead from behind bars in Kondangi, where he is currently facing charges of terrorism and secession in Colonial Republic du Cameroon.
We will not allow policy decisions to be dictated by any one of our beloved warriors who is illegally held in captivity as a hostage or a prisoner. The days when I was an activist, I advocated in very strong terms that when a general is taken into captivity, he loses the authority to command the army. I was not in any attempt trying to secure powers then. But it was all for patriotic reasons. At that time, I didn't even dream to take any leadership position within this struggle. I said that, and I said what I said then because it was the right thing to say. And therefore, we unapologetically stand firm with this assertion today because it is the right thing to do.
Elsewhere, CRTV anchor, global media consultant, and unapologetic unionist Eric Chinje is pulling no stops for Maurice Kamto. In an early week interview on Afrique Media, Eric Chinje expressed his readiness to support President Paul Biya during the rest of his new tenure Should Biya release all political prisoners and even adopt the Kamto policy plan for Cameroon?
Libérons Kamto, libérons tous ces jeunes à qui je parle souvent, qui sont en prison à Konenge, ils m'appellent. Je les connais, je connais bien leur situation. Libérons tout ce monde-là et mettons-nous ensemble pour voir comment soutenir même le président Biya pendant ce mandat. On peut amener Kamto et les autres à le soutenir, mais qu'en contrepartie, qu'ils aient quelque chose aussi pour montrer à leurs sympathisants.
Finally, late stories Saturday included video footage of an Amber extortionist.
They said, man, I don't take no money.
If he send you, say, me go collect how much?
Every time, the price, if I go, the power give me, they will call it, talk the price, we say, I don't talk. You know what talk.
And then you go collect money, say, yeah, you walk now. You be asking, say, yeah, the man get now straight the man. Can now kind of dollars crazy man for street. You go ask that question, say, you are pass now today to owe you. You walk now for you today to owe you. Then have a prison. He gave a prisoner for how long?
Who was arrested and molested by Amber boys while the Biafrans in Nigeria pulled a page from the Amber Zero Vote playbook.
At home on Saturday, no more election in Biafra land. We no longer in Nigeria. We want Biafra. So everybody should stay in the house. Coming Saturday to
Even as elections got cancelled in Nigeria thanks to stuffed ballot boxes that were caught on the way to Biafra land. Ntumfoyn for Ambazonia Calling.
Restoration train is going to the mountains. Restoration train is going to Bamenda. Restoration train is going on to BOYO on the restoration journey of our liberty. Restoration train is moving very steadily. Restoration train is hooting very loudly. Restoration train to carry everybody on the restoration journey of our liberty.
As we heard in the news summary by Ntumfoyn, the 4 liberation movements that met Thursday will be pulling together with other liberation movements to organize an Ambazonian conference in Washington, D.C. It holds the 22nd and 23rd of March, but here is John Akuru with the press statement which has more details.
We, the undersigned members of Southern Cameroon's liberation movements, met today, 14 February 2019, in Washington, D.C., to discuss progress towards the holding of the All Southern Cameroon's People's Conference. At this meeting, we noted the following: that the open invitation to the conveners of the AGC extended through a delegation from Cameroon made up of Eli Smith and Reverend Dr. Godwin Cham during their recent visit to the United States of America was welcome. That during the visit mentioned above, the only item that was discussed was the need for all parties to meet in the United States of America within the framework of the conference. That the said conference will bring together Southern Cameroonians of all shades of opinion to work out lasting solutions to the Southern Cameroon's problem, including bringing the ongoing genocidal war to an end. That the said conference has been scheduled for Friday 22 and Saturday 23 March 2019. That we are inviting international stakeholders to send observers to the conference, in witness whereof we have appended our signatures to these press statements. The Southern Cameroon's National Council, SCNC, Movement for the Restoration of the Independence of Southern Cameroon's MORISC, the Consortium, the African People's Liberation Movement, APLN.
Ambazonia Calling. You are in the heart of the news shrine. Call us the Kalakuta Republic of commentary, opinion, and editorials. A convention bringing together Ambazonians has been convened for the historic American city of Philadelphia in the state of Pennsylvania. Some of those calling the come together claim to be country representatives, or members of a so-called Parliament of Ambazonia. Conveners claim to have been elected. They also claim to be protecting what some call the heritage of Siseko Ayuktabe. Trouble is that not everyone agrees. In fact, there is an open fight, as we hear in this report by Tanyi Jude Agwa Ozugen.
The conveners of the Ambazonia Convention in Philadelphia say they will proceed despite the IG group declining to endorse. The pretext the IG group has used to deny the convention is that the funds Ambazonians will spend hosting, traveling to, attending the event in Philadelphia will be better used for sticks and groundnuts on ground zero. The truth of the matter is that the IG group is in panic mode. The fear that Philadelphia will topple the current leadership of the IG group is palpable. It is an internal IG group affair, with palace coup plotters struggling mightily to outsmart each other. Waves of protest actions and decisions have been building, and they may be coming to a head in Philadelphia. Unlike groups like Maurice, which advocated the holding of elections but always held back from proceeding with the ballot for fear it could undo the revolution, unlike groups like ACT, whose reboot workshop was feared by some who thought it would lead to the formation of a rival interim government, the organizers of the Philadelphia Convention have made no secret of their desire to unseat Sako, or at least call him and his team to book. Even though a majority of those playing holier than thou now were always supportive of the IG group, they have conveniently elected at this moment to blame the IG group for many sins. They blame the IG group for rubbishing the effort to build collaboration following the September 2018 Unity Rally in Washington, D.C. They now have found voice to decry the IG group for banning other groups, for setting out to disarm fighters on ground zero, for failing to be transparent and accountable. Those blaming the Sako-led IG group for whatever have been partners in whatever crime they accuse Sako and co of. To give themselves some form of newfound political virginity, the rebellion within the IG group considers their hand strengthened by claiming the Ayoktabe inheritance at the same time as the IG group is on record for throwing it to the dogs. Anyone thinking that this craziness and riding this high horse within the IG group started with the Sako-led team only has to look back a few months to the birth of this monster. Philadelphia is borrowing from Siseko Ayoktabe's own playbook. When the time came for Siseko Ayoktabe to make himself king of Ambazonia, he found a way of designating country representatives, of bringing them into Lagos, of packing the deck against leaders of other liberation movements in order to secure his rise to power. When sideline leaders decried the practice, Siseko Ayoktabe locked them out of the mafia conclave held in Zaria, where his only goal was to consolidate power. The trick of rising up against other conventions and conferences holding also dates back to those plots to consolidate power. That is how the Ayoktabe-led IG group opposed the convening of the reboot workshop. Once Sako got on board, he transformed this policy into action, ensuring not only a boycott of the reboot workshop, but also a sabotage of it by organizing a demonstration on the same day in Washington, D.C. As recently as a few weeks ago, the IG group demonstrated its hostility to the Boston Conference. The mafia that has put a stranglehold on the revolution and has crowned itself an interim government is in true danger of collapse and implosion in Philadelphia. Shit is about to hit the fan, as Americans will say. The saddest part of this tragedy is that those who are counting on Philadelphia to usurp power do not realize that they are, by their own actions, helping to write the next coup plot for those who might want to convene their own conclave, boycotted by the new lords of Ambazonia, but used to unseat them in any case. Live by the sword, die by the sword now has an Ambazonian equivalent. Rise to power by coup, get ousted by another coup. Yet the solution is there. Elect a credible and legitimate leadership that can not only claim to be speaking on behalf of our people, but be able to demonstrate that they have a mandate from our people to be the voice of this revolution. This is Tanyi Jude Agwa Ozugen for Ambazonia Calling.
This thing will go on for 50 and 100 years. You cannot kill everybody. And even if you kill everybody, the stones would avenge for the blood that spills on them. The soil will get up and start fighting.
You have plenty of show yet to come, so don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
The people of West Cameroon cannot be your slaves. The people of West Cameroon are not, you did not conquer them in war. The problem we have in West Cameroon is the problem that will bring down Cameroon. When people have had pent-up anger and pain, humiliation, for over 50 years, when it bursts out, you will never be able to control it.
They will sooner realize that the people of Ambazonia will not surrender. They will sooner realize that you can arrest and kill, but the more you arrest and kill, the more you energize the people's spirit.
Speaking of elections, here is Divine Anje explaining why they are so important for Ambazonia to establish the credibility and the legitimacy that the leadership of Ambazonia needs in order to engage other governments which are all elected and be treated seriously, to engage international organizations which admit only elected governments representing their people with the mandate to do so.
Nearly everyone in Ambazonia or involved with Ambazonia's quest for the restoration of its independence admits that it is the people's revolution. The more accurate thing to say, in fact, is that it is supposed to be the people's revolution. The centerpiece for any group of people claiming to be acting with full legitimacy is recognized from the world's point of view as flowing from the miracle of the ballot box. If elections have become by far the most powerful tool for granting legitimacy to leaders of any grouping, be it your small Jangi group, your university, or your village group, why has it become convenient for those opposed to the democratic process in Ambazonia to claim that the ballot adds no value? Election haters have masterminded, clearly articulated, and perfected the craft of avoidance. Never mind that the cheerleaders of this opposition have had to submit themselves to elections in order to lead their own organizations. It is only when it comes to Ambazonia that their doctrine becomes the people must embrace and submit to a charade of kleptocrats. They have become so allergic that the mere mention of the convening of a conference or convention like the one holding at the end of this month in Philadelphia is brandished as an attempt to overthrow what some have called the Zaria Mafia. They are frightened by the sheer prospects of a public shaming and rebuke. Their tongue-in-cheek assertion of popularity, their claim of being the people's choice or the people's government is not something they would want to confirm by the very people they claim to be so popular with. They have consecrated all their energy to the building of an anti-election coalition of dimwits and political faymen, denying the Ambazonia revolution the possibility of proving, beyond any doubt, that the aspiration of the people is indeed for separation and independence. It is the most radical thing that has been done in this revolution, to proclaim belief in independence and yet prevent the people from electing representatives to speak on their behalf that will be seen as indeed chosen by the people, by everyone, especially by the international community and countries whose recognition Ambazonia seeks. Without the magic powers and undisputed legitimacy that flow only from an election by the people, Ambazonia stands no chance of forcing the international community to eat their own words, as enshrined in Resolution 1853, upholding the primacy of the will of the people as expressed in elections, in the exercise of the sacrosanct right to self-determination for any people held as unwilling partners by a colonial or annexationist country. If elections do more good than harm to Ambazonia's restoration quest, is it not laughable that they are seen by, singularly, those who claim to be the people's choice as a pest? The people of Ambazonia signed on to this revolution and enthusiastically embraced October 1st, 2017 as Independence Restoration Day based on a clearly articulated strategy laid out in a roadmap. SCACUF embraced that roadmap, inheriting the responsibility to deliver on the promise of putting together a leadership that the world will not be able to challenge as not representing the will of the people. Sadly, it was mere lip service. meant to facilitate what has turned out to be a hold-up at the helm. Power did its thing ever since. Power corrupted. The more absolute it becomes, enforced by groups wielding weapons, the more corrupt power has become. Just having a view different from the powermongers is now termed as an act of treason, and threats fly as any Tom, Dick, and Harry dare those they love to hate to set their foot in Ambazonia after independence. This is so brain dead. Circumventing elections is avoiding the use of the only instrument that will force the world to admit that the leadership negotiating on behalf of our people have a mandate from our people. Now, that is what I call working against the revolution. This is Divine Angie for Ambazonia Calling.
Welcome to our special interview segment, The Devil Unmasked, The Truth Out. Welcome, Princess Harriet Fomuki. Prophet Emmanuel Tatamenta is out on sabbatical. We will keep this segment for in-depth interviews. Welcome.
Thank you, Ntumfoyn. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you having me on this wonderful program, and I really want to take this opportunity to thank you and the team for the good job that you've been doing educating our people.
So thank you very much, and I will pass that on to the team. We have seen the kind of energy that you bring. It's just so powerful. So why don't we open there? We know that there's coming up in Philadelphia the APNC. What is your view with respect to going to an event like this?
This is just another Zaria mafia in the making, okay? These are the same crooks that Milan used to create this mafia that is taking down the lives of our people. And it is a job that Milan had started as soon as he got involved in this revolution. And I thought it had peaked at Zaria, but given what is going on and even the plan of this APNC and everything that surrounds it, and knowing how closely Milan is with Sesiko, who is promoting this, and knowing that Sesiko and Milan caused the pain that Southern Cameroonians are feeling today, I feel like these people have an evil job that they have been assigned to do that they have not completed, and this APNC is just that venue that they're working to give them that opportunity to completely crush this revolution if Southern Cameroonians do not distance themselves from it. What I'm saying is that there is no way, you cannot stop a meeting, but this is one of the most dangerous meetings. The organizers of these meetings have no good intention for this revolution.
Let me bring that accusation for something that you and I were involved with. When we organized the Reboot workshop, which you attended and participated heavily with, when the Boston conference held, everybody made the same accusations. Do you think people are mistaken?
Absolutely mistaken. One, the Reboot conference was open. For me, just the fact that it was open, nobody invited me to the Reboot conference. You know that it was open. Remember, the Boston conference was another open meeting for all Southern Cameroonians. It was open. So when I see a place where Southern Cameroonians are meeting to discuss about this issue that is slaughtering our people, and it is an open venue, of course, I will go in there and make my voice heard. The people who cooked up whatever they cooked up in Zaria pretended, and all of them, most of them calling themselves pastors, pretended to be praying while arranging for gunmen to come and chase their own brothers. And I will tell Southern Cameroonians to stay clear of whatever resolutions or whatever plans that will come out of that place, or whoever the people sitting at that meeting are. People just have to distance themselves. They have no good intention. It is just Zaria Mafia 2.
Besides the team of auditors, you are probably one of the best placed persons living to tell Ambazonians what exactly happened to the funds that were raised under SCAPAC. Let me ask you a few questions to guide our conversations on this one. You have said that the money spent for SCAPAC was diverted or intercepted or moved into some other accounts. By who and how exactly?
When you bring this issue of SCAPAC, it is really one of the burning issues that I think we have in this revolution, because I am one of the people who really believe that we need to build very strong institutions, and SCAPAC was one of such institutions. But unfortunately, people who, out of their greed and personal reasons, this is Milan Atam in particular, preferred to kill a strong institution and build a strong man like Sisiko, whom he can use to attempt to take down the revolution. SCAPAC is still alive. SCAPAC is not dead. We could do something and build another institution if we do not want to focus on resurrecting that one or reigniting that one because it is still alive.
Does it still have money?
Oh no, SCAPAC definitely still has thousands of dollars inside. Let me tell you, I might be running ahead of myself, but I think just because you asked this question, let me say it. I have been saying, I don't know if you've heard it, that FAKO was brought into SCAPAC by Milan, okay, to completely kill SCAPAC and siphon the rest of the funds that were in, because that is what Milan does best. But that did not work, and FAKO actually became the acting interim president or whatever they call him, I think, with the knowledge of what was going on in SCAPAC, and he knew how transparent that organization was. So he had to go work with Milan to create this My Trip to BOYO and do everything opposite of what SCAPAC had, so that he could now siphon the funds completely without the possibility of having any checks and balances. Because I want you to understand that the money that we're talking that Milan siphoned did not even hit the bank account. This money was siphoned right at the website with the aid of the webmaster, Roland Omene. And it is reported that the money was deposited in Daniel Tagumenkem's account, his PayPal account.
You're basically saying that funds destined for an account within an organization regularly registered in the United States were swindled by people online, kind of online pirates, and that they have done whatever they wanted to do with this money, and that someone who was sitting in the board of SCAPAC and knew how transparent and accountable it was, arranged so that funds can go to a different place so there will be no accountability.
Yes.
Wow. We know that there was an audit in the misuse of these funds. We know that that audit got into the hands of the leadership at the time, Siseko Ayuktabe. What happened?
Based on the amount of people calling to verify their money that they have contributed into the SCAPAC bank account, and that was not being reflected in the bank account itself. So I raised an alarm that something is not right. Money that people are contributing is not hitting the bank account. So we pushed and made sure that an audit was done. When that audit was done, it was presented to Sisiko on September 23rd, 2017 in Boston, amongst the Boston think tank members and a few other comrades of the revolution who were present. The auditors professionally presented that audit showing that money was being siphoned at the website. And Milan Atam agreed that, yes, he siphoned the money with Roland Omene, the webmaster, but it is because he needed to use the money to pay for SCBC bills. SCAPAC had been paying for these SCBC bills before then. So, and nobody knows exactly how much. The auditor said they could see how much was missing, but they did not have the complete password because the webmaster was resistant to giving them total access. So they could see some of the amount of money that was being siphoned, but they couldn't see exactly how much money was being siphoned. And the good thing is, Milan did not refuse, but Sesiko did everything to cover him as if what he did was not an issue.
But when you say Milan did not refuse, we remember him attacking someone like Wilfred Tassang when he raised the issue and writing a long memorandum in which he claimed innocence, and then we knew what happened in Zaria.
Everything that Milan said was a big fat lie. The audit report, which the chairman of SCAPAC has, Sesiko has those reports, Sako has those reports. I do not know why they have not published those reports to the people of Southern Cameroon who contributed all these monies.
You are saying, in other words, that people today who have indicated, including from jail, that there needs to be accounting with respect to my trip to Boya, that these people have lost the moral authority given that they did not even chase this matter. And you're also suggesting that although we may be hearing of an audit being ordered with respect to my trip to Boya, that it may be a lost cause. Nobody will ever hear anything.
When I hear that Sako is ordering auditors from out of the country to come and audit, I thought it was a really laughable thing, because how can you be the suspect, or I would call him the criminal, and then you are the one ordering people to come and audit you? So it is just going to be a big sham and a scam, and there will be nothing that is going to answer any of the questions that Southern Cameroonians have regarding the whereabouts of the My Trip to Boya funds.
And if SCAPAC has a copy of this report, if you do, what is stopping SCAPAC from publishing it?
I do have a copy of the website report, which I have actually forwarded into some forums. But you know, reports like this have to come from the administrators, okay? For example, in this particular case, let me tell you, I also hold the SCAPAC board chair, Dr. Mukube, accountable or responsible. I don't know why he has not published the report from the SCAPAC bank account and the report from the website. Because remember, when we are talking about SCAPAC audit, there are two separate audits. The website audit and the SCAPAC bank account audit. The SCAPAC bank account audit is 100% clean, because every dime that got into the account is accounted for to the last penny. The money that was swindled in relation to SCAPAC is the money that was swindled at the website, that Milan intercepted at the website. So it did not even get a chance to hit the bank account. And as I'm telling you, we still have thousands of dollars left in SCAPAC, because when Milan diverted every fund, brought Sako into it to make sure that SCAPAC is completely handicapped and My Trip to Boya created, everything was abandoned and the account is still the way it is with the funds inside. To be honest with you, I do not understand. I just know that these people dealing with My Trip to Boya, the Milan, the Sako, the Sesiko, even right in jail, all these people, I'm telling you, are a gang of crooks. That is why I had to push and make sure that the audit was done, and done by professionals, not by, because Milan had also proposed his own people to audit the website, okay? And just like Sako is doing now, that is just the first attempt that they're going to find people who will work to cover up for them.
You have also mentioned that at Zaria, the conclave in Zaria, that this was practically like a mafia. It was going to be difficult for you to provide a report, and you felt completely threatened.
Absolutely. I am somebody who, again, I am very resilient. But they pushed me to the wall up to the extent that Sesiko and Milan will bring gunmen just to make sure that I do not have the opportunity to expose the theft that Milan did. And of course, my life was threatened. So when it got to that point, I had to run. I had to run for my dear life so that I could live to be able to be here today and tell the world and the people of Southern Cameroon, how evil, manipulative those people are, and for everybody to stay clear of them if they want to be safe.
We also know that I think the Follyhock law firm bills, were they connected to SCAPAC? Do we still owe them? Do they still collect on the money? Do we still keep the account green as it was intended?
Of course, Follyhock bills were being paid by SCAPAC, but we do owe them. We still owe them some money right now. Ever since Milan completely diverted the funds that got into SCAPAC, that was the fastest way to handicap the work that Follyhock was doing for the revolution. So we've not been able to pay Follyhock. They have suspended their services because they are not a pro bono law firm.
There were questions as to what exactly they were doing and how we could control that they were doing it, not just earning the money or collecting on the money. What is the extent to which we know that they did something at all, and what do they have a report they presented for the time that they were paid?
When we retained Follyhock, we got Professor Anyangwe, who is a lawyer. That was his responsibility, was to read through the agreement and to follow up with what Follyhock was doing and report to the people of Southern Cameroon. There were 7 lawyers that Follyhock law firm put on our case. We have only worked with 2, and their own responsibility was to create awareness, which I can tell you that they started doing that effectively.
Let me catch these last few questions with respect to because I'd like you to give some messages to our people. They have been hurting from this lockdown. We are hearing some really crazy noises about a lockdown, permanent lockdown. What message do you have to give our people and to people who are thinking about a crazy idea like that?
If there is anything that we are doing that hurts our people more than it hurts La République du Cameroon, then it is a very stupid idea and it should not be done. And talking to the people that I do talk to on Ground Zero, most of them tell me that they do not like the idea of the lockdown at all, but they are obeying it out of fear. And it is so bad for us to push our people who are resisting and fighting for their freedom with all their heart, then to make them to do certain things out of fear instead of out of the willingness that they have always showed because they want their freedom.
What message are you sending? We've seen some brave Amber boys, and we are absolutely denouncing those who are bandits, those who have been trained by Kema and Tanganji, who are out there harassing our people, taking ransom, those who are just criminals going around and robbing people. A message for the Amber boys, the real ones who are doing the self-defense work for our people.
I thank them so much for all their sacrifices, for defending our people, defending our homeland. There is nothing that I can. There is no amount, no way, no words that I can use to say how appreciative we are of everything that they do, defending our people, defending our families. And every day we pray that God will continue to protect and guide them.
What kind of message do you want to send, especially to our ladies, to our young girls, and to our mothers who are on ground zero now?
I want to particularly tell our ladies that they are the face of this revolution. They are the leaders of this revolution, because in every capacity, the women have demonstrated resilience. Those women whose husbands have been killed, children have been killed, these are the women that I think of first. Our women are the bravest, I will tell you, even in the diaspora. The women, the most powerful of this revolution have been women. There are women like, let me say, Mom Sivi Mbangwi. These are women who have stood up more than you and the other leaders. Ntumfoyn, please. These are women who have stood up to these crooks that are bringing down at attempting to bring down our revolution. I mean, the crooks of the likes of the FAKO, the Milans, the Sesiko. These are women who have stood up to them in situations that you and the other leaders preferred to resign, which is something that really disappointed me so much in this revolution. Like, you saw crooks, instead of standing up to them, you and the other leaders, you chose to resign and allow them to take Southern Cameroonians for this ride. But women like Mom CV, Dr. Liz, look at another iron lady, Vivian Mukum. That is one of the women I respect a lot in this revolution. Those are the kind of, and then somebody is saying that women are not leading this revolution. Financially, most of the financial contribution in this revolution has been by women. Look at people like Beatrice Ndamukong. She is one of the highest financial contributors in this revolution. You look at Immaculate, even with a baby in her hand, but she will stand and speak up and educate people and empower other people to prosecute this revolution. There are so many other women, I cannot even list all of them now, but I really want to say women have been the most powerful. If you look at rallies or every protest march, women have always outnumbered the men. Women have contributed in every way. Women are taking care of refugees more than. So I just want to take this opportunity to say the women should keep doing what they are doing.
I agree with you on women, but I know you're saying this for the second time, but you're mistaken about why I resigned. I didn't resign because I was running away in the face of people doing evil. I resigned because the governing council was transforming into the government. And I had said very clearly I would not accept any position in government now or in the future. And I do not agree to a government that is not elected, because our people need legitimacy for us to be treated seriously. And I've never resigned from the job of being an Ambazonian soldier fighting for the independence. So I feel proud about the role I'm playing. So if I had to resign again, I would have resigned again.
Ours is even worse, that it is not even a real government. It is a gang of crooks put in place by Milan to do his dirty job, and he calls them a government.
I'm afraid we ran out of all the time we've got. Princess Harriet Fomunki, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Okay, thank you, Ntumfoyn. Thank you. And I hope God will bless and free Southern Cameroons sooner than later. Thank you.
This is Ambazonia. One nation, one soul, one people. Sacrificing, bleeding, and yes, dying if need be, until we kick the colonialists out and enthrone a government of the people in BOYO. Ambazonians are being told to make the choice between county and local government area versus the nation, Ambazonia, building a tribal, a local, a regional, even a clanic image, as opposed to building national values and national identity and pride. There's something definitely wrong with this picture, as we can hear in this report by Willie Bradade.
Before the dust had even settled on the fiasco that was my trip to BOYO, many Ambazonians found themselves engrossed in another gimmick called county by county, bedazzled as they were by the idea of self-governance. They got sucked into a scheme that was essentially meant to take contributors' minds off the lack of accounting for the funds that were collected, by making them believe that there will be more accountability by doing it this way. In a clear case of putting the cart before the horse, promoters sold the idea that by organizing themselves according to the colonial administrative units, our people would be building their new country. The truth is, county by county is just a bastardization of block by block, sold by its promoters as a fundraising tool, but whose underlying motive is to undermine a rival strategy in a political chess match. By adopting this idea, Ambazonians are unconsciously doing the bidding of La République du Cameroon, whereas the colonialists only succeeded in fabricating a northwest-southwest divide that gave birth to an elite class that was at each other's throat for the crumbs that fell from the master's table. County by county has managed the feat of dividing us even more. It has essentially put what La République did on steroids by reducing us to a bunch of tribalists promoting a nativist policy of parochial jingoism at the expense of Ambazonian nationalism. By so doing, proponents of this idea, like the white man and his religion in Things Fall Apart, have put a knife to the things that held us together, and we have fallen apart. In essence, the ties that bind us as a people, our Ambazonian identity, have been dealt a serious blow by this idea. As a result, we no longer see the kind of cooperation and coordination that used to exist. Fighters are looking at each other as rivals instead of comrades. We are seeing open hostility by some who don't even want other Ambazonians to interfere in the affairs of their county, and so on and so forth. The General Arke saga in BOYO and the Boatibo tragedy are just examples of the negative effect of this gimmick on this revolution. What do you do when Ambazonians from a certain area are unable or unwilling to constitute themselves into a county or a local government area? Perhaps there's no better example than the case of Nkambe, where 11 February was celebrated with great pomp and pageantry. Unless DONGA-MANTUNG is not part of Ambazonia, I would like someone to explain how you could have such festivities in the heart of a lockdown. I could go on, but the point I am making is this. There can be no county without a country known as Ambazonia, just as you cannot have a child without a parent. As a people who aspire to exercise their inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in the land of their birth, we should not be endorsing or promoting any idea that limits where those rights can be exercised. This is Willibrod Ade for Ambazonia Calling.
So get on now on the train. Everybody, get on now on the train. Mothers, fathers, get on now on the train. Children, get on now on the train. Sister, brothers, get on now on the train. Husbands, wives too, get on now on the train. Oh, Abba, Father, bless us. Oh, Jesus Christus, guide us. Oh, Holy Spirit, lead us on the restoration journey of our liberty. So, restoration train.
Ambazonia can be a grouping or a collection of tribes, or it can be a nation of citizens committed to national values over and above regional, clan, and tribal affinities. Innocentia has advised on which obvious choice Ambalanders should make.
The colonizer knows, and Ambazonians should know even better than those barbarians, that the only fight that is truly defining of this restoration quest is control over Boya. Every other gain should be building steps on the road to Boya. It is certainly for that reason that the school dropout certificate thieving Lord Mayor of Boya, Patrick Ikema, spared no expense, and the regime did not hesitate to support the plan to fake turnout for 11 February celebrations in Boya. The plan consisted of recruiting paramilitary students from the police academy in Butengene, from the prison warden training school in Boya, and from the military bases and BU training camps of Manowo Bay. Usually an accomplice in the sale of such maneuvers, at least one reporter on CRTV was disgusted enough to spill the beans on primetime national radio.
The Anglophone problem has proven to be unique, and the government must realize that it cannot be approached like the Boko Haram insurgency in the northern parts of the country. Why do we keep on lying to ourselves instead of acknowledging the truth? Why do we continue to leave the object and follow the shadow? This is exactly why for over 3 years now, what started like ordinary street protests has metamorphosed into a civil war that has reached unacceptable and inhuman proportions. It is not by pretending that all is well that all will be well. Bringing all the students from the Mutengene Police College to march in Boya on the 11th of February in the name of the youths of the town, does it really solve the problem? The cameras will capture the images, and Yaoundé will think that there was a massive mobilization in Boya, therefore Boya is fine. At the end of the day, who is fooling who? For over a week, people have remained.
The regime desperately needed for Never Can Pass GCA Mayor Ikema to deny restorationists the narrative that Boya is falling. that the political heartbeat of the La République du Cameroon's colonial enterprise is on life support. The flexing of muscles by restorationists, notably through the lockdown, failed to focus on the topmost prize of this revolution, dispersing energies and fighting the regime on the many fronts that are counties and so-called local governments ensures that the regime no longer has to bother designing a strategy to achieve divide and rule. County by county and LGA by LGA works better than anything La République du Cameroon could have dreamt of. Whereas Patrick Ekema had a victory lap at the end of the day, no matter how he got it, the 8 million question is why could proponents of the Ambazonia-wide lockdown not focus their strategy on winning by locking out and locking down BOYO? How much value is there in raising 100 flags in as many villages across the land, with each and all of these villages as far from Ambazonia's presumptive capital, BOYO, as heaven is from earth? There is no denying that at this stage, Ambazonian freedom fighters have already chased out the colonizers from perhaps 80% of Ambazonia. The colonialists have now been forced to take refuge in major cities and urban centers, using the civilian population there as human shields in order to hang on to some semblance of control. Unless Ambazonians choose, as some revolutions do, and Ambazonia Calling would recommend, unless a revolution chooses to have a mobile capital until BOYO is captured, the importance of focusing on BOYO cannot be overemphasized. To gain independence, the United States fought to drive the British out of Washington, D.C., more than from out of Chicago. During the 1984 failed coup attempt in the Cameroons, the coup plotters took the fight to Yaoundé, not to Garoua, the county and local government area of most of the insurrection. The French stormed the Bastille in Paris, not some other obscure targets, however symbolic, in distant towns like Marseille. It would not matter, and it should not matter, if BOYO was taken without Ekiliwindi or Malende in the southern zone, or Jakiri and Anyadra in the northern zone ever falling. There is a biblical quote that can be adapted to provide a slogan for our people. Seek ye first the kingdom of BOYO, and all the other county and local government areas will be added unto you. Amen. This is Ntumfoyn, Ambazonia Calling.
Restoration, restoration, restoration train is going to the borders.
Ntumfoyn,
Restoration train is going straight to Kumba.
Ntumfoyn,
Restoration train is going on to Bali.
Ntumfoyn,
Restoration train is going to Victoria. Restoration train is going to Muyuka
and to Ekok.
We don't do foolish, but when there are capital fools out there, we make it our duty to find them, and every week we crown one of them the Nyamfuka of the week. Here now with a review of the kings and queens of foolish for the week is Veronique Vetumfe.
Finishing in third place and lifting the bronze medal this week are two veterans of the Ambazonian restoration struggle. The two have been in this struggle for way too long and are considered some of the most experienced and steady hands at the helm in times of crisis. They have also put together one of the most far-reaching collaboration
and partnership platform to have allowed themselves to be tempted into wrestling each other in public and struggling to win in public, a fight they should have by all means, every day, twice on Sunday, but better behind the scenes than with the floodlights on, cameras and recorders rolling, and a gleeful Colonial Cameroon watching on. For letting out such a fad, whose stench is now ruining the public, Ntumfoyn Herbert and Dr. Cho Ayaba shared the third place finish for the crown of shame, the Nyamfuka of the week.
Nyamfuka them all.
Finishing in the position of runners-up is another veteran and an ideal spokesperson for his people and the plight of his people, who has been sitting out this revolution ever since it started. Early this week, he fielded questions from a television reporter who wanted his views on the ongoing violence in the Cameroons. Eric Chinje, since it is him we're talking about, managed to provide a convoluted answer that can be summarized as a plea to Dictator Paul Biya to release Professor Maurice Kamto, Penda Ekoka, and all others arrested and locked up in jails of La République du Cameroon in exchange for, among others, even support for Paul Biya. For even thinking, let alone suggesting that the release of innocent leaders who should never have been arrested in the first place should be rewarded by anyone supporting the Biya regime. Eric Chinje is this week's runner-up for the crown of shame, the Nyamfuka of the week.
Nyamfuka them all.
Finishing on top of the class and running away with the crown of shame is a man who pulled an old Ahijo trick on some Ambazonians this week by pretending that he was resigning, then claiming that thousands had begged him not to resign. Not shy of eating his own words, Chris Anu spoke into any camera that was live this week, joined by his cheerleader, Comrade Sako, in playing factions of Ambazonians who swear by Seseko Ayoktabe against those who swear only by Sako or Milan, those who swear against the APNC in Philadelphia, and those who cannot wait for it to hold. For reinventing an old Ahijo trick, I am resigning, really meant to justify not resigning. Chris Anu is this week's undisputable winner of the crown of shame, the Nyamfuka of the week.
Nyamfuka them all.
This is Veronique Vetimfe for Ambazonia Calling.
Nyamfuka them all.
The naysayers want Ambalanders misled into believing that the country they now call Ambazonia does not even exist, will never exist, and can have only a virtual internet existence. Not true. Here is Capo Daniel with why Ambazonia is real and there is no stopping it.
There is no such thing as a non-existent or an illegal country once one has been proclaimed or decreed by the will of the people, as Ambazonians did on the 22nd of September and on the 1st of October 2017. As the Banjul court stated in its ruling in favor of Ambazonia against La République du Cameroon, the responsibility of the war is to acknowledge Ambazonia, not claim that it has no right of existence and its people no right of self-determination. The international community has no way of preventing a territorial entity like Ambazonia from emerging. To make matters worse for the colonialists in Yaoundé, the International Court of Justice does not recognize secession as a violation of international law. In other words, even if Ambazonia were staging a secession, which is not the case, it will still not be a violation of international law. The most the international community can do is to decline to open diplomatic relationships with Ambazonia. However, it is important to stress that recognition is merely cognitive. It is not constitutive. The emerging entity will continue to exist and carry on with its affairs as best it can, lack of recognition notwithstanding. Somaliland has been existing as a separate state and country for over 20 years, despite lack of recognition. Communist China existed as a state for decades, despite lack of recognition by the Western powers and refusal of admission in the United Nations organization. So, loud and clear message to Ambazonian a few days after Valentine's Day is, keep upholding your nationhood. The world will warm up to you and welcome you into its community of nations. Come rain, come sun. This is Capo Daniel for Ambazonia Calling.
This is Ambazonia. One nation, one soul, one people. Sacrificing, bleeding, and yes, dying if need be, until we kick the colonialists out and enthrone a government of the people in Boya. There are Amber Boys and there are Amber Boys, the real Amber Boys for whom we will be eternally grateful, and the fake Amber Boys, some of them invented by the likes of Atanganji and Ekema Patrick, for whom there will never be a pardon in our minds. Here is Barrister Manjong Jutambe with a review of why Ambazonians should be eternally grateful to the true, the real Amber Boys.
A lot needs to change, and change not only soon, but very drastically. Otherwise, there's no doubt in my mind that history will not be kind on our appreciation of the efforts and bravery of the Amber Boys. Our failed grade will stem from our individual and collective failure to be more sensitive to the plight of a people who, in this day and age, deserve the justice they seek and every right they are clamoring for, and much more. There can be no rationalization and or exculpation, none whatsoever, for any in this revolution to deny the right for other Amberlanders to have a say in their own affairs and in shaping their destiny. That the international community is dragging its feet and not yet warming up to Ambazonia should surprise no one. The international conspiracy against our people and the determination of France to maintain Ambazonia as part of its colonial plantation remain an integral part of a corrupt world order, one in which institutions like the United Nations, with a mandate to protect the vulnerable, like Ambazonia, prefer to put Ambazonia up for sale as if we were reliving the days of the slave trade. The international community would be far less successful were it not for the nonchalance and complicity of many an Ambazonian, including those who have done everything to ensure that whatever leadership we now have cannot beat its chest and lay claim to having received a mandate from the people. The good news today, compared to any other time in our past, is that our people are prepared and willing to make the sacrifice that leads us to outright independence, restoring our dignity as citizens in the land of our birth, where we want unfettered freedom to reign. By word and action, Ambazonians have been unequivocal in their message to the world. Those on ground zero, who daily are bleeding and dying, send an unambiguous message. Together and united as never before, our people reject the status quo. We will not let the Republic carry on business as usual. The compromise offer we once had on the table after the All Anglophone Conference 1 and 2 are now completely and forever off the table. Colonial Yaoundé, with its warped notion of one and indivisible Cameroon, had better wake up and smell the coffee. Their stubborn strategy of forcing the shackles back onto the limbs and necks of their slaves is wholly unsustainable. We can doubt any and every aspect of this struggle, but never the firmness of purpose and bravery of the true Amber Boys. There are some rogue elements and bandits passing for Amber Boys, some definitely planted by the likes of Atanganji and Ekema Patrick, taking advantage of the situation and causing havoc, extorting, kidnapping and abducting our people for ransom. It is only a matter of time before these comebacks are smoked out by the most courageous fighters Africa has ever seen. I'm speaking of the very brave and genuine Amba boys. This is Manjung Jude Ambe from Ambazonia Calling.
So get on now on the train. Everybody, get on now on the train. Mothers, fathers, get on now on the train. Children, get on now on the train. Sister, brothers, get on now on the train. Husbands, wives too, get on now on the train. Oh, Abba, Father, bless us. Oh, Jesus Christus, guide us. Oh, Holy Spirit, lead us on the restoration journey of our liberty. So, restoration train is our freedom train.
In the struggle now for the restoration of the independence of southern Cameroons, Ambazonians very frequently evoke what happened in Nigeria. That history is well known for some, not so well known for others. And taking time to explain it to everyone today, here is the monk, Verzekov himself.
Heroic Moments of Ambazonia's Independence Restoration Quest, 1953. The independence of the people of Ambazonia has been a subject in the regional politics of the Gulf of Guinea since decolonization. The trust territory of the British Southern Cameroons was administered through Nigeria, and the Macpherson Constitution of 1951, Nigeria's constitution, which created northern, western, and eastern legislatures, made no mention of an autonomous region of Southern Cameroons. Instead, Southern Cameroons would have representation in the Eastern Nigeria legislature. Within Nigeria, the Macpherson Constitution was already a problem as regional leaders jostled for federal power. Within the Eastern Nigeria legislature, where Southern Cameroons was represented, our representatives noticed the divisiveness between the various Eastern Nigeria communities, Igbos versus Ibiobios, etc. It would take presence of mind, dedication to the people for our 13 representatives to force a situation where the colonial government of Britain and the Nigerian fledgling government had to pay attention to the posture they had decided to take, to have an autonomous legislature of the British Southern Cameroons. Sensing simmering resistance to these demands, our legislatures led by Dr. EML Indele created the Benevolent Neutrality Bloc of the British Southern Cameroons delegation, which triggered the 1953 Eastern Regional Crisis. The British Secretary of State for Colonies referred to this bloc, led by Indele, as a separatist party and challenged them to have an election. Inadvertently, perhaps, the Secretary had just endorsed a separate identity for Southern Cameroons. Our erstwhile Benevolent Neutrality Bloc realized that they had work to do and decided on these points as the way forward. 1. Severe links with the eastern region of Nigeria. 2. Called on all citizens of British Southern Cameroons to support the demand for a separate region for the territory. 3. Circulated messages throughout the territory inviting delegates from all walks of life to attend a meeting in Manfe from May 22 to May 24, 1953. And they decided at this meeting now to send a petition to the Secretary of State for Colonies demanding the creation of a separate and autonomous legislature for the Trust Territory of British Southern Cameroons. The British government convened the London Conference of July 30 to August 22, 1953. The The 1953 Eastern Regional Crisis would be ended by one question: to be or not to be part of the Eastern region of Nigeria. The results were clear. The KNC party of Dr. Indele, which did not want to be part of Eastern Nigeria for several reasons, won 12 out of 13 contested seats. The one seat was won by the Cameroon People Party, KPP, which wanted to remain part of Eastern Nigeria. They got one seat. In essence, the Cameroon National Congress Party, KNC, of Dr. Indele was the first indigenous party to advocate for a separate regional status for the Southern Cameroons from Nigeria. Why is this significant? For the first time in the political history of British Southern Cameroons, the British colonial government had given a condition: elections, which was fulfilled. So Britain, to keep its gentleman's agreement, had to accept and document that Southern Cameroons was a separate entity from Nigeria or any other state. After 1953, in the context of the modern political history of nations and nation-states, there is no turning back for British Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia as an independent, autonomous, self-ruling, self-determined state in the Gulf of Guinea. 66 years is a lifetime too many for a people to keep waiting to stand on their own feet as they keep fighting to do so in the face of a post-colonial neo-colonization that operates in the open for the world to see. What else can explain the ongoing genocide in Ambazonia except that the genuine wishes of Ambazonia to be independent are sidelined and made impossible deliberately by known forces and agents of France and the modern-day French Empire called France-Afrique. This is the monk from Ibalikumato for Ambazonia Calling.
This is Ambazonia Calling.
Because you have your army of occupation out in West Cameroon, you believe that when the people will rise, even if you took the whole of the French army and added to yours, you will never bring them down.
And I call on all Cameroon soldiers to lay down their arms within Ambazonia and to turn their arms against the very system that has made them slaves in the land of their birth.
For more stories from around the world, go to the World Wide Web at themissionstribune.com, compassfreepress.com, and africafreedomnetwork.com.
Here is our letter to Joshua.
Dear Joshua, we're down to the last 2 minutes of the program, and there you got it. You lucky son of your mother. You are 1 year older since February 13. One more year wasted by God because, as the prayer says, God does not want a bad man to die. He would prefer for him to change his evil ways before he's called into eternity. You should have learned that in the first year in the minor seminary. Although in your case, and given the fact that your father was a catechist, you should have learned it in the third year of catechumen class. Before communion, I mean. Now, sadly, for the world, you have learned nothing and forgotten nothing. You are still the old demon you were when Ahijo mistook you for a saint in hiding. You are still the hypocrite Ahijo's in-law described, and the same incompetent fellow that former African Union Secretary General William Etekimbuma rated in performance evaluation. What will it take for the evil that you are to get an epiphany? When are you meeting Christ on your own road to Damascus? Who gave you the name Paul when Saul was still left for the taking? It cannot be good news for you to have heard this week that even members of the parliament in the Hexagon are asking questions about your genocidal war in Ambazonia. They're asking exactly how many French troops you have recruited into this evil enterprise. Are they coming straight out of Rwanda? Are they on a refresher course in Ambazonia? I mean, the French parliament is beginning to take a look. They are pointing to what you are doing, using questions as a means of not making the accusations too open for now. You and grandson Manu Macron are getting into some deep doo-doo very soon. Did you hear also that the United Nations is just getting ready? They're just kicking everything into gear. Stuff is going to begin to happen, Joshua. I mean, you must have heard the comparison by French members of parliament, the ones that were making, of how, the French troops, after all, supported those mass slaughters, the genocide in Rwanda in 1994. Who would have thought that the French parliament would be confessing a sin that President Kagame has asked them to confess for such a long time and they cannot? I mean, it's just like the Italians now forcing your colonial masters to admit that the CFA franc is nothing, just some colonial enslavement tool for the 14 African countries. If the French are doing that much, if they're doing you so badly, Joshua, what do you think the Congress of the United States is going to do? They cut off financial assistance, they cut off aid, they impose sanctions. Very soon, Joshua can't even go to Switzerland because it's too close to The Hague. It's too close to the ICC. We have said this before. Your days are numbered, old boy. Even Antonio Guterres of the United Nations, he forgot that he had been gifted with that golden statue. And look at what he did when he was in Ethiopia the other day. He just sat there and said the UN Security Council, needs to make adjustments for Africa. Africa got independence too late and that it was double colonization because of just how badly represented Africans are. Can you imagine what he would say about Ambazonia? Right now, it's like triple colonization. We've got the French, we've got the United Nations, we've got you. And the European Union is mobilizing too, you must have heard. You can tell your friends in Switzerland, I hear you've got nationality. Tell them that your native country is now helping Ambazonia, now working with Ambazonia and trying to get you into trouble. You probably know this already, but The Hague is a very beautiful place. You go to The Hague the same way you have been sending Marafa, Kamto, Ejuatitus, Siseko Ayuktabe, Tasang Wilfred, BBC Mancho, the same way you have been sending them to prison. You go there on prison tourism. You don't have to cry about your jail time. You just have to relax. And by the way, I'm going to make sure that I pass on the message you told me to pass on to Shantu. She should bring you bread and sardine. She try and make it a daily thing. And she should bring you some oranges. It just works well for prisoners. I think it's for digestion. But I heard it works really well. Okay? A friend of mine was reading a book the other day, and I thought I should change the title of the book I'm writing about you, Joshua. My friend was rereading the book. We had read it in secondary school. It's called The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born. And I changed the title of my book on you. It now says, The Wicked One Is Not Yet Dead. I'll send it to God. It's an application for you to leave Earth. Leave us alone. Go rot somewhere. Someone needs to commit you to the termites. You have been listening to Ambazonia Calling. We came to you from our studios here in Washington, D.C. Our producers today, Jeff McCoy, Logistics, Joe Costa, and Krista Cunningham. Our music is from Ken Wanaku, the monk, from Balikumato Vazekov himself, from William Ford, an Amber music star of blessed memory, from Eric Matisse on the web at soundimage.org, and from Prince DONGA-MANTUNG of Ajam, Sonicatron, USA. Ambazonia Calling is a joint production of Africa Freedom Network, the Missions Tribune, and Compass Free Press. You can find us on the web at missionstribune.com, at compassfreepress.com, and at africafreedomnetwork.com. Next Sunday is another date. Until then, keep the spirit, keep the faith, keep up the good fight for justice and independence for Ambazonia. Stay Amba strong.